Warning, the following program contains satire, sarcasm, and more bite than a plate of Cracker Barrel chicken fried steak. Side effects may include eye-rolling, uncontrollable laughter, and the sudden urge to buy a MAGA hat or throw one in the trash, depending on which side of the fence you're sitting on. This show is not FDA approved. It won't fix inflation, and it definitely won't make you any friends at your local Whole Foods. Listener discretion is advised if you're easily triggered, allergic to common sense, or if your safe space doesn't serve biscuits and gravy. Proceed with caution because once you hear it, you can't unhear it. This is Data Dissonance, and Friday just got a whole lot louder.
Happy Friday, America. By now you've survived the week, maybe you've survived the headlines, and if you're lucky, you've survived the gas prices. But here we are, Data Dissonance, your drive time detox from the nonsense. Tonight we've got a loaded show. The Cracker Barrel saga keeps sizzling. Trump's critics are back in meltdown mode. The global stage is wobbling as BRICS flexes its muscles. And we've got some laughs lined up too. Plus, our specialty segments, Patriot Minute, Red Pill, MAGA Fire, Conspiracy Board, and Soapbox. Because what's Friday without a full spread? So grab your coffee, your tumbler, or your sweet tea. We're serving biscuits and bombshells. Let's bring in the crew. Brian, the man whose closet looks like a MAGA hat warehouse and whose ringtone is probably Lee Greenwood. He's fired up tonight because nothing makes him happier than seeing Trump win and the media cry into their soy lattes. Rachel, our independent, the referee in this ideological cage match. She's the one who can praise a good conservative policy in one breath and torch a Republican spending bill in the next. Think of her as the one person at the table who refuses to drink anyone's Kool-Aid. Daniel, the conspiracy theorist who can find a CIA connection in a Sudoku puzzle. He's got the corkboard, the red yarn, and enough deep state theories to keep Alex Jones sweating. If you think a Cracker Barrel logo is just a logo, Daniel's here to explain why it's actually connected to BRICS currency swaps and maybe lizard people. Skylar, our progressive soapboxer who probably wishes this podcast ran on solar power and served fair trade oat milk between takes. She's idealistic, passionate, and fully convinced that if we just shut down every coal plant tomorrow, utopia would arrive by next Tuesday. And me, Artie, your host, referee, and fellow patriot, trying to keep this panel from turning into a food fight with country gravy and kale chips flying across the studio. Tonight's episode is brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller series. Political intrigue, shadow ops, and conspiracies ripped from tomorrow's headlines. Book 1, The Covenant Protocol. Book 2, The Prophet Directive. And this December, Book 3, Black Echo Rising. Grab your copies on Amazon now before the world catches up. And since we're talking culture, let's talk merch. 2 brand new 20-ounce stainless steel tumblers are in the store right now. First, the Christian Patriot tumbler stamped with "Not ashamed of the cross or the Constitution." Second, the Gen X skull tumbler with the unapologetic "Fuck your feelings" design. They're built to keep your drink cold longer than a CNN anchor's career and hot longer than Brian's last rant. Grab one or both at Data Dissonance store. All right, let's get into it. On Monday, we talked about Cracker Barrel ditching its old country logo for a slick modern one and the backlash that followed. Well, this week, the backlash reached boiling point. Customers revolted, Trump weighed in, the stock tanked, and within days, Cracker Barrel waved the white flag, brought Uncle Herschel back, and watched shares climb 7% overnight. The question is, what does this reversal really mean? Was it a victory for tradition, a corporate panic, or just another skirmish in the bigger culture war? Let's hash it out. Brian, you've been itching to jump in, so let's start with you. Brian, do you see this reversal as a win for conservative values or just a business decision dressed up as tradition?
This was absolutely a win for conservative values, no question. People are tired of corporations caving to woke branding consultants who want every American institution to look like a San Francisco juice bar. Cracker Barrel is Cracker Barrel because it's unapologetically old school. Customers demanded the return of heritage, and the company listened. That's not just business. That's proof that tradition still matters. For years, we've been told culture wars are unwinnable, but this week we saw the opposite. The people spoke, and a corporation backed down.
Okay, but some say this was less about values and more about survival. Stock price plunges, angry customers, Trump roasting you on Truth Social. It's a bad mix for any CEO. Was this really about heritage, or did Cracker Barrel just panic because the money was drying up?
Look, I'll admit panic played a role, but panic works when you're on the wrong side of your customers. And that's the lesson here. The left always wants to paint this as cynicism. Oh, they only did it for money. Well, guess what? Money is how you measure what people value. Customers voted with their wallets, and if that forced Cracker Barrel to rediscover its backbone, good. That's the free market reinforcing tradition, and I'll take that every single time.
All right, but let's zoom out. Brian, do you think this moment shows the culture war is now a mainstream battleground, even in logos and branding?
Absolutely. The left doesn't stop at politics. They push into sports, entertainment, commercials, even fast food menus. For years, conservatives rolled their eyes and thought, it's just a logo, who cares? Well, this proves it's bigger than a logo. It's about identity. And when people finally push back, they won. That should encourage conservatives everywhere. If Uncle Herschel can strike back, so can we in schools, boardrooms, and beyond.
Rachel, Brian's calling this a straight-up culture war victory. But you've got the independent lens. Are we making too much out of a corporate logo fight? Do you see this as a values win, or just profit chasing in disguise?
Honestly, it's profit chasing, plain and simple. Corporations don't suddenly find their values, they find their margins. Cracker Barrel didn't roll back the logo because they had a come-to-Jesus moment about patriotism. They rolled it back because they were losing customers and the stock was sinking. That's not values, that's math. The nostalgia is real, but let's not confuse it with principle. This was economics with a side of biscuits.
Okay, but people really did rally around this. They cared enough to revolt. That's not nothing. Do you think nostalgia itself has become a cultural weapon in these fights?
Definitely. Nostalgia has power because it anchors people to a sense of stability. In a world that feels chaotic, pandemics, inflation, global unrest, people cling to symbols of comfort. Uncle Herschel isn't just a logo. He's a reminder of tradition and predictability. Companies know this and they exploit it. So yes, nostalgia is a weapon, but it's one aimed at your wallet as much as your heart.
All right, but one more for you. Because independents like you are always warning that both sides get too worked up over symbols. Is this fight a distraction from the bigger issues that actually affect people's lives?
In some ways, yes. Logos don't lower gas prices or fix healthcare. People can get fired up about Uncle Herschel but ignore budget bills or foreign policy that actually shape their futures. That said, the intensity of this fight does matter. It shows people are fed up with elites making cultural changes without consent. So it's both a distraction on one level, but also a window into how fed up people are.
Daniel, I know you're about to say this wasn't random. Lay it out for us. Do you believe this redesign was just bad branding, or was it a deliberate cultural stress test?
This was deliberate, 100%. Corporations don't spend millions rebranding without knowing exactly what they're doing. This was a probe. They wanted to see how much heritage could be stripped away before people broke. The backlash wasn't an accident. It was a signal. And that's how culture war works. It's not about the logo. It's about conditioning people to accept bland, sanitized, globalist-approved imagery everywhere. Test the waters, measure the pushback, adapt. That's the game.
All right, but skeptics would say that's reading too much into it. Daniel, come on. It's just a sign on a restaurant, not the Bilderberg Group. Why would a restaurant chain care about erasing culture?
Because restaurants are culture. Think about it. Where do families gather? Where do politicians campaign? Where do traditions live on? If you can rewrite the identity of a restaurant people associate with family and tradition, you can normalize rewriting anything. It's the same reason They go after mascots, monuments, or holidays. Nothing is too small when the goal is to reshape identity. If people accept it in their comfort food, they'll accept it anywhere.
All right, last one. Give us the big picture. What's the lesson from this whole fiasco for the culture war moving forward?
The lesson is simple. The people still have power, but only if they use it loudly. Cracker Barrel didn't blink because a few people grumbled. They blinked because it became a movement. Trump amplified it. Customers revolted, and the company had no choice. That's the model for every fight. If people push hard enough, corporations back down. But don't get too comfortable. The elites never quit. They'll just find a sneakier way next time.
Skylar, you've been sitting through this culture war framing, but I know you see it differently. Do you think this whole backlash was blown out of proportion?
Completely. It's a logo. Companies rebrand all the time. The only reason this turned into a national controversy is because conservative media blew it up into a culture war flashpoint. Meanwhile, the real issues, wages, healthcare, climate, get sidelined. People are fired up about Uncle Herschel while ignoring the fact that the same company underpays staff and overcharges customers. This wasn't a cultural crisis. It was a distraction.
Okay, but people clearly do care about these symbols. Nostalgia matters to them. That can't just be dismissed. Is clinging to nostalgia holding the country back?
Yes, in some ways. Nostalgia can be comforting, but it can also keep us from facing reality. People want to believe the past was better, but clinging to that illusion doesn't solve today's problems. Workers are struggling, healthcare is broken, the planet is in crisis, and we're fighting about a logo. That's the trap. Corporations love when we focus on symbols instead of holding them accountable for real issues. Nostalgia is a convenient distraction.
All right, but one more. Because progressives like you always say we need to change the focus. If not nostalgia wars, what should the real fight be about?
The real fight should be about how corporations treat people and the planet. Cracker Barrel can bring back Uncle Herschel all they want, but it won't change the fact that wages are low, food sourcing is questionable, and sustainability isn't a priority. That's the fight we should be having, not whether a cartoon man with a pipe stays on the logo. Nostalgia won't pay the bills. Real reform will.
So Brian sees a win for tradition. Rachel calls it profit masquerading as principle. Daniel says it was a deliberate test. And Skylar says it's all distraction. Either way, Uncle Herschel struck back. And for now, nostalgia reigns supreme. But it leaves us with a bigger question. Are we fighting for symbols, or are symbols fighting for us? All right, let's zoom out beyond biscuits and gravy and take a look at the global table. BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa just expanded, adding more countries to its economic club and doubling down on efforts to challenge the US dollar. They're floating ideas for a shared currency, pushing energy deals outside the dollar, and framing themselves as the counterweight to Western dominance. On paper, it sounds like global economics. In reality, it's a direct challenge to American power. The question is, how should Trump's administration handle it, and what does it mean for everyday Americans? Let's run this one down. Brian, let's start with you. Does this BRICS expansion pose a real threat to the US dollar, or is it just global theater?
It's a threat, but not the kind people think. The US dollar is still king because the world trusts America more than it trusts Beijing or Moscow. Nobody in their right mind wants a currency run by dictators. But the threat is in perception. When BRICS talks tough, it makes allies and investors question whether America is still strong. That's why leadership matters. Under Biden, we looked weak and indecisive. Under Trump, we project strength. And strength makes the dollar stronger than any currency swap ever could.
All right, but let's drill deeper, because BRICS keeps making noise about building an alternative system. Do you think America can afford to ignore this, or does Trump need to actively counter it?
Trump can't ignore it. He's got to crush it. That means strong trade deals, energy independence, and using America's military and economic weight to remind the world who sets the rules. Weak presidents ignore threats. Strong presidents set the tone. If BRICS thinks it can undermine the dollar, Trump needs to make it crystal clear: play ball with America or get shut out of the biggest economy on earth. That's how you win this fight.
Okay, but let's step back. Because some argue America's biggest problem isn't BRICS. It's our own spending. Is BRICS the enemy, or is our debt and dysfunction the bigger danger?
Our debt is the real danger. BRICS is noise. But if we keep spending ourselves into oblivion, we weaken our own foundation. Trump understands that. You can't be the world's reserve currency if you're broke at home. The fight isn't just against BRICS. It's against the political class in DC that spends money like monopoly cash. Fix that, and BRICS will fold like a cheap tent.
Rachel, Brian's ready to stomp BRICS into the ground, but let me bring you in as the independent here. Do you see BRICS as a real economic threat or just a headline?
It's more than a headline. While the dollar is still dominant, the fact that countries are even talking about alternatives is significant. It signals a lack of confidence in America's stability. That's not something you can just wave away. It may not dethrone the dollar tomorrow, but it chips away at the perception that America is the unshakable leader of the global economy. And in markets, perception becomes reality if left unchecked.
Okay, so if perception matters, let's talk leadership. How should Trump handle BRICS without sparking a bigger crisis?
He should be strong, but measured. Bullying every country into line isn't sustainable. America's power has always come from alliances as much as it comes from strength. Trump needs to make it clear that America is the partner of choice. Reliable, stable, and profitable. That doesn't mean ignoring BRICS, it means outcompeting them. Show the world that being tied to the dollar is still the safest and smartest option. If he can do that, BRICS won't matter.
All right, but one more, because you always remind us about the numbers. Is the real threat external, BRICS, or internal, our own spending habits?
Internal, absolutely. Our debt and dysfunction are the biggest threats to the dollar. You can't run trillion-dollar deficits and expect the world to keep trusting you forever. BRICS can't topple us on its own. But if we keep sabotaging ourselves with reckless spending and political gridlock, we'll hand them the opportunity. The biggest danger isn't what BRICS does, it's what Congress fails to do.
Daniel, I can already see the corkboard in your eyes. What's your take? Was this just economics or part of something bigger? Do you think BRICS is just countries banding together? Or is this part of a global elite strategy to weaken America?
It's absolutely part of the global elite strategy. BRICS isn't organic, it's engineered. The same globalists who push woke culture at home are the ones encouraging rival powers abroad to chip away at America. Divide and weaken. That's the formula. BRICS is just another front in the long game to undermine US dominance. And the elites here at home, they don't mind because a weaker America means a stronger global system where they hold the power.
Okay, but skeptics will say you're giving BRICS too much credit. It's a messy group with competing interests. Why do you see it as such a coordinated threat?
Because patterns don't lie. These countries don't like each other, but they unite when it's about challenging America. That's not coincidence. That's design. They're testing America's resolve, watching our debt, watching our infighting, and waiting for the moment when we're too weak to push back. It's a long game, and anyone who thinks it's just a coincidence is either blind or complicit.
All right, last one. Daniel, bring it home. What lesson should Americans take from this?
The lesson is that our enemies abroad and elites at home are on the same page. Weaken America. And the only way to fight back is to wake up and push back against reckless spending, against globalist deals, against leaders who sell us out. BRICS isn't the threat. The complacency of the American people is. If we stay asleep, they win. If we wake up, they lose. Simple as that.
Skylar, you're shaking your head through this whole segment, so let's bring you in. Do you think BRICS is actually dangerous, or is this just conservatives hyping a boogeyman?
I think it's overhyped. BRICS is messy, and those countries don't trust each other. But what it represents is frustration with American arrogance, and honestly, some of that frustration is justified. We've spent decades bullying the world with sanctions, military bases, and debt deals. If other countries are looking for alternatives, maybe it's because America hasn't always been the good guy in the story. So, no, BRICS isn't about to dethrone the dollar, but it is a signal that America can't just boss the world around forever.
Okay, but conservatives argue BRICS only exists because America was weak under Biden. Do you think stronger leadership, like under Trump, would stop this?
No, because the problem isn't who's in the White House. It's the system itself. Both parties have abused American power abroad. Republicans wave the flag while cutting deals that exploit the global poor. Democrats talk about diplomacy while letting corporations run wild. Trump might project strength, but unless he fundamentally changes how America engages with the world, countries will keep looking for alternatives. It's not about Trump or Biden. It's about whether America learns to lead by example instead of intimidation.
All right, one last push here. If BRICS isn't the real danger, what is?
The real danger is inequality, globally and domestically. America's biggest problem isn't BRICS. It's that ordinary people here and abroad are being crushed by systems designed for billionaires. As long as we let corporations and elites write the rules, people will keep losing faith in America as a leader. The danger isn't foreign nations, it's our refusal to build an economy that actually works for people.
So Brian says BRICS is noise, but still dangerous. Rachel says the bigger danger is our own dysfunction. Daniel says it's a globalist scheme. And Skylar says it's more about American arrogance than foreign plots. Either way, the message is clear. The fight for the future of the dollar isn't happening in some far-off capital. It's happening in our own backyard. For this week's Patriot Minute, I want to spotlight an organization that embodies service, sacrifice, and what America is supposed to be about. This week, I'm highlighting the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They started in honor of firefighter Stephen Siller, who lost his life running toward danger on September 11th. Today, they build mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families, first responders, and catastrophically injured veterans. They don't just talk about supporting heroes. They actually do it, hammer by hammer, brick by brick. While politicians give speeches, these folks give families a roof over their heads and hope for tomorrow. It's easy to get distracted by culture wars and corporate squabbles, but Tunnel to Towers reminds us that patriotism isn't hashtags, it's action. If you want to make a difference, support them. Because a nation is only as strong as how it cares for the men and women who gave everything. That's your Patriot Minute. God bless our heroes, and God bless America. Time to swallow the red pill? Rachel, what have you got for us this week?
You know what frustrates me? Both parties talk about fiscal responsibility, but neither one practices it. Republicans wave the flag of small government until it's time to pass bloated defense budgets. Democrats cry about helping the little guy while writing trillion-dollar bills stuffed with pork and subsidies. And through it all, the national debt keeps climbing like a rocket with no parachute. Here's the red pill. America doesn't have a revenue problem. We have a spending addiction, and both sides are guilty. If you're cheering your team while ignoring their hypocrisy, you're part of the problem. Debt isn't partisan, it's arithmetic. At some point, the bill comes due. And when it does, no logo, no speech, no nostalgia will save us. That's the truth neither party wants you to face.
Brian's got that look, like he's about to set fire to the teleprompter. Brian, light it up.
The media just cannot quit Trump. Every time he speaks, they lose their minds. Every time he tweets or truths, they melt down. And you know what? That tells me one thing. He's still the only man who matters in American politics. The left screams about authoritarianism while ignoring the fact that Biden couldn't fill a high school gym without busing in volunteers. Trump walks into Cracker Barrel or a rodeo, and the place erupts like it's a Springsteen concert. The man commands attention, and the media hates that they can't stop him. My rant is simple. If Trump is so washed up, why does the media cover his every move like it's the second coming? Because deep down, they know the truth. He's still the biggest force in the room. And no matter how many times they try to bury him, he just keeps winning.
All right, Daniel. Clear the corkboard and string up the red yarn. It's time for the conspiracy board.
Everyone's talking about BRICS like it's just an economic club. But here's what they're missing. BRICS isn't about money, it's about power consolidation. They frame it as a financial alternative, but really, it's a tool to weaken America from within. And here's the kicker. It's not just foreign powers behind it. Globalist elites right here at home are in on the plan. Look at the timing. BRICS expansion announcements land right as our national debt debates collapse into chaos. You think that's coincidence? Number. They want Americans divided, distracted, and drowning in debt, so we don't notice the noose tightening globally. The conspiracy board is clear. BRICS isn't just 5 countries, it's a coordinated strategy to erode American dominance while elites profit. And if you're still doubting, follow the patterns. They always tell the story if you're willing to see it.
And finally, Skylar's Soapbox. Progressive fire served straight up. Skylar, go.
Here's what frustrates me. All this noise about Logos and BRICS while working families are drowning. We've got a healthcare system that bankrupts people for getting sick, wages that can't keep up with rent, and a climate crisis barreling down on us. And what are we doing? We're yelling about Uncle Herschel and flexing about who's got the stronger currency. Let me be clear. Corporations love this. They love that conservatives and liberals argue about symbols while they quietly exploit workers, jack up prices, and pollute the planet. The Cracker Barrel fight, it made headlines. The BRICS fight, it'll make think pieces. But the real fight, how corporations treat people and the planet, barely gets airtime. My soapbox is this. Wake up. Stop letting corporations set the terms of the culture war. Start demanding accountability where it matters. Fair wages, healthcare, sustainability. Because nostalgia won't fix the planet, and a logo won't pay the bills.
All right, we've hashed out Uncle Herschel's comeback, we've battled over BRICS, and we've burned through the specialty segments. Let's go around the table one last time. Big picture takeaways. What did this week really tell us about America right now?
My final thought is this. People still have the power if they're willing to use it. Cracker Barrel learned the hard way that if you ignore your base, you pay the price. That should be a message to every corporation and every politician. Don't spit in the face of tradition, because tradition is what built this country. And as for BRICS, yeah, they're noisy, but they're not stronger than America when America's strong. The problem is, we've been led by weaklings for too long. Trump is showing again that leadership matters, that standing tall matters. My hope is that people realize, whether it's logos or global currencies, the fight is always about identity. And if we keep fighting, we'll keep winning.
My final thought is that symbols matter, but substance matters more. I don't want to dismiss the Cracker Barrel fight. It shows that people are paying attention and demanding their voices be heard. But I also don't want us to stop there. A logo won't fix inflation. A mascot won't balance the budget. And nostalgia won't rebuild trust in government or institutions. The BRICS conversation drives that home. Our biggest threat isn't out there. It's in here. If we don't get our fiscal house in order, if we don't demand accountability from both parties, then it won't matter who's on our restaurant signs, because we'll all be eating crumbs. That's my red pill. Focus on the real, not just the symbolic.
My final thought is that none of this is random. Cracker Barrel's rebrand wasn't just bad marketing, it was a test. BRICS' expansion isn't just messy economics, it's coordination. The elites, here and abroad, are always probing the defenses. They chip away at heritage, they float alternative currencies, they sow division. And every time people get distracted, they take another inch. What happened this week proves two things. One, people can fight back when they wake up. And two, the elites never stop trying. So laugh at Uncle Herschel, argue about BRICS, but don't forget the bigger picture. The patterns are always there, and they always point to one truth. The game is rigged unless we resist.
My final thought is that we're wasting energy on distractions while ignoring the fights that matter. Cracker Barrel changing its logo back doesn't help a single underpaid worker. Nostalgia doesn't pay the bills. And BRICS, for all its noise, doesn't matter as much as the inequality that's crushing people right here at home. We should be fighting for living wages, for health care, for sustainability, not getting whipped into a frenzy over a mascot. And the truth is, corporations love it this way. They love when people get outraged over symbols because it keeps us from demanding accountability where it counts. If this week showed anything, it's that we need to redirect that outrage, because until we do, nothing changes.
And here's where I land. This week was peak America. Loud, messy, funny, frustrating, and revealing all at once. Cracker Barrel reminded us that tradition still has teeth. BRICS reminded us that the world isn't waiting for us to get our act together. And our own conversations reminded me that America is a paradox. We care deeply about symbols, sometimes at the expense of substance. But we also prove time and again that when pushed, the people still have a voice. Brian's right, tradition still matters. Rachel's right, symbols aren't enough without substance. Daniel's right, the elites never stop testing us. And Skylar's right, we're distracted too easily. Put it all together, and you get the truth. America is still in the fight, but the real battle isn't just out there. It's in here, inside our wallets, our communities, our politics, and our culture. So as you head into this weekend, don't forget, nostalgia tastes good, but accountability feeds the future. Keep pushing, keep questioning, and keep fighting for the country we know is worth saving. And as always, remember to speak truth, stir thought,